All right. I'm so excited to be here tonight with Tamara Logan. Tamara and I have a really juicy, fun topic for you this week, which is all about creativity in dating and in relationships, and more importantly, in our lives. And before we dive into that, I just want to give Tamara a chance to introduce herself. So, Tamara, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and then what you do with the women that you support through our program, Queens of Pleasure?
Yeah, thank you, Violet. I live in San Diego and I've been a coach since 2003. And one of my passions is to really help women connect with their heart and their true self so they design a life that's really fulfilling in their relationships and their career and their visions. And part of the work that I do with you and your Love Revolution is really help women feel empowered around their beliefs and their mindset and also connecting to their heart so they feel more empowered in the relationship.
Heck yeah, we all want to feel more empowered and heart-centered in our relationships. I love it. And I love the support that you provide our clients. They have one-on-ones with you and weekly Q&As with you. And it's an amazing opportunity for them to get that emotional and embodiment and breath work and yeah, just a sense of deeper support beyond just the strategy, because there are a million books out there about the dating strategy, but yet half of all women are not in relationship. And I would venture to say the half that are in relationship may not actually be happy in their relationship. So like you said, we're totally here to create a revolution of love where women feel really empowered and really excited and aligned and dating like a queen. So yeah, why creativity? I'm just going to share why we picked that topic for tonight. I have seen time and again that when a woman works on her femininity and cultivates that energy, she naturally has more creativity. And that creativity shows up in really beautiful ways in her dating life, in her relationship, but also in just the rest of her life. So it's an additive thing when we work on our feminine, and then our creativity, vice versa, creates new opportunities in our life. So we thought it would just be really fun tonight to explore this topic a little bit more. So Tamara, yeah, like what happens when we don't have creativity in our life? Because I think a lot of women might be feeling, well, I'm not creative, or I don't even know what that would mean. So let's look at what happens when we don't have that in our life.
Yeah, I think a couple of general things that I see is we can all deplete our internal creativity and our ideas, and we lose that spark or that zest for life, and our life starts to feel like more routine or less fulfilling, and we get less creative, whether it's in the meals that we cook or we feel like, kind of stuck in a rut, right? And one of the quotes that I read that was powerful around this topic was the human spirit lives on creativity and it dies in conformity and routine. So I thought it was really interesting. Like, one of the things that really can sabotage our creativity and things in our lives is conformity. So it's really when we lose that sense of connection, of listening to ourselves and doing what others might like, we lose our flow of creativity and what we really want. And then I think our lives become more confining or more limiting, and we listen to ourselves less and we feel less authentic and less passionate. That's a little bit what I see.
Heck yeah, I loved what you were saying about it feeling that we are not listening to ourselves, because a lot of times as women, we do feel pressure to conform societally, or it doesn't feel safe for us to be fully expressed. But oftentimes on a deeper level, there is that little voice that's saying, take the bold path, or follow your passion, or speak your truth, like let them know how you feel. And we don't listen to that voice, and then we stuff it down, and then we're run more by our fear, or like you said, our habits, our routines, than by that passion and that spark, which is just illuminating for ourselves, but for everyone around us too. So that was a beautiful quote. And I find as well, like when we're not tapped into our creativity, life seems to have less meaning. We might feel more negative. We might have more like limiting beliefs or thought patterns. Our emotions might feel a little more kind of stale. And then what I find is that when that happens, either we're hiding, like we're kind of hiding our light, and so people can't necessarily find us. They can't see us if we're being more internal in that way, or we create drama. You know, it's like if we're not creating something, we will create drama perhaps, or we will look for things that went wrong. I mean, I'm very sensitive. A lot of women that I work with are very sensitive. And it's oftentimes when we don't have other things creatively or just the energy of creativity that we try to reduce things or control things or think, oh, well, maybe that person's upset at me, or, you know, maybe I didn't say things the right way. And we get destructive instead of creative. And so it feels like it's a really, really important part of our life and of our journey as women.
That's actually really important, like the kind of the paradox of creativity. If we're not generating it in a positive way, how we can do it in a destructive way. That was really illuminating. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my teachers would always say, you know, if you're not creating, you're destroying. I was like, oh, okay. And then one of Jason's friends / mentors is a guy named Robert Glover, and he wrote a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And it's all about helping men break past the constraint of being the nice guy to really be an authentic, embodied man, which is a breath of fresh air for a lot of women, because a lot of women, of course, want a man who has heart and has emotional attunement, but not someone who's like super nice and like passive. Like that doesn't tend to like get us really excited. But he's creating a new book. This is not a plug for his book, but it just feels congruent with what we're talking about. And it's about creating positive emotional tension. Like we all want a little bit of emotional tension, but instead of creating that in a negative way in ourselves or in a relationship, how can we create that in a positive way by having excitement or passion or creativity or stretch goals or, you know, healthy challenge and all of that. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but let's zoom in a little bit more about specifically within our feminine energy and within our relationships. You know, why does creativity feel so important?
Well, I think like the root word of creativity is to grow. So I think creativity, like you were just talking about, it's very life-giving, right? So I think it really amplifies our feminine energy, our femininity. It can open up our heart and then the things that we do from our heart. And I think you also referenced this earlier, is I think our intuition and our creativity are also really related. So when we listen inside of ourselves, we trust our ideas, we move towards that authenticity and freedom of expression. And again, I think it brings that empowerment and passion back in our lives. And I think how that energy can flow into relationships, just a few things would be, it would definitely increase that romantic passion. I think it keeps things fresh. I think it keeps conversations going, because I think we're connecting from a place of happiness. And then our relationships are like deeper and richer and have a healthier bond to them.
Yes. That all feels so yummy in my body and so true. You know, how much fun is it to show up to a date where the guys or woman is just talking about like how crappy their day was or how their life is going wrong. You know, they're kind of in that meh energy. And then how fun is it when you show up to a date and you and the person that's on the date are both like, wow, I'm working on this project, or this thing is inspiring me, or I just read this book, or I cooked something really delicious last night, or, you know, there's just so much more possibility that opens up. And I don't feel like we should be in relationships if they aren't opening up new possibilities. You know, what's the point of having a relationship that makes you smaller or makes you feel like you're less than, or makes you feel like you have to let go of your dreams? Like, no, that's old codependent relationship that none of us are interested in anymore. We wouldn't be interested anymore, I would hope. So creating this like interdependence where we're bringing something to the table, not because we're not enough, but because life is meant to be exciting and passionate in that way. And I know for myself that whenever Jason gets started on one of his film projects, it's always exciting to me. I have like a new level of respect for him, and it goes the other way too. You know, when a woman has something creatively that she's doing, and just to define creativity really quickly, it doesn't have to be like arts and crafts. You know, for you, you might be living a very creative life because of the pursuits that you choose outside of your work. You know, maybe you're creative with the different athletic events you get involved in, or maybe you're creative about how you give back to the community. I mean, I think creativity is just the endless opportunity to live our values and to express ourselves in new ways. But when we're doing that as women, you know, all these different forms of creativity, it's alluring. It's so alluring for the masculine, because in traditional, you know, views of masculine, feminine, the feminine is change and the masculine is more of structure. Now, Jason is a masculine, you know, person with a lot of masculine energy, but he has a ton of creativity. So it's not necessarily gender biased, but as the feminine, we do bring a lot of life and vitality. And so if we're not tending to that life and vitality within ourselves, then it can feel kind of flat and kind of boring, you know. And a lot of times women will say, well, I don't know why he didn't call me back, or why did he ghost me, or, you know, why didn't this work out? And I don't advocate that we spend a lot of time analyzing the other person, because we don't really know. But a lot of times if someone is not wanting to pursue something with you, they're not feeling the way they want to feel when they're with you. You know, they're not getting the sort of energy that they want to get. And maybe they need more spice and more passion and also more challenge. You know, maybe they're not looking for someone who's just kind of the therapist type role, or like the mom. Maybe they're looking for someone who's got different things going on. So again, this isn't about you turning yourself into a pretzel, if you're watching this, you know, in order to have healthy masculine attention, but it is about remembering that, like, you're inherently a creator, you know, whether you are still in your reproductive years, or whether you even have those reproductive organs anymore, you know, we still have this inherent drive and ability as women to create. In my mind, as women, we create much more effortlessly than the masculine does, from my perspective. But we'll share some examples of some of our queens, some of our clients who've done some really creative and awesome things later in the broadcast. But let's talk about what keeps us from creating more, from staying connected to our creativity. You mentioned, you know, social norms or conformity. What else is a block? What else gets in our way?
I think, like, this might be a weird way to say it, but sometimes I think what happens for us women, like, everything in our environment, like, talks to us, right? Or demands our attention. So whether it's, you know, responsibility of kids, or the dishes to be done, or our work demands, there's this general kind of like busyness that can oftentimes feel overwhelmed and pressed for time. So then we definitely increase our efficiency, right? The to-do list, the checklist. And then, yeah, I think conformity, comparison, those expectations. I think both of those things can kind of pull us away or off course of our creativity, or just have us say, I'm going to put it on the back burner until I have time for it.
Yeah, that's so true. I see that in myself all the time. There'll be times when I'm like, you know, doing the laundry, and I'll be like, why am I doing the laundry right now? I should be doing something else. I should be creating something. I made a joke to one of my friends. This was a few years ago, but I made a joke saying, you can always tell how much I'm procrastinating on a creative project by how clean my house is. Like when I'm immersed in something that I love, my house could be a disaster somewhat. But if I'm kind of resisting or procrastinating or judging myself, or like you said, getting into the really masculine efficiency mind, my house might be spotless, but I might feel like parched inside. I might feel restless inside, that I'm not letting that creativity flow. So that feels so true. And I think we all have these beliefs, you know, that keep us stuck, that keep us from being creative. You know, some of them are, for me, it's like, well, why try anyway? Because everyone's already done something like that. Like, I can't do it better than the other people out there, so why should I even try? Or like, you know, I'm never going to be an artist anyway, so why should I bother painting? Like, a lot of comparison comes in for me that turns into a limiting belief that keeps me from taking that risk to be more freely creative and expressed. How about you? What do you see in the women that you work with and in yourself for limiting beliefs that prevent us from being more creative?
Yeah, I think, like, on a general sense, when we say the word creativity, I think it can build up in our mind, right? It's a person of this extraordinary talent or skill, like a dancer or a musician or an artist. And then if we don't have that, I think we can't be creative. So I think there's that kind of untruth, but it can be there. And then we say, I can't write or draw or whatever. I'm similar, like who do I think I am to do that on my own creative projects? I'm not unique enough. I'm not, I don't stand out enough. And so then I'll procrastinate on things. And then I think in relationships, I can fall into that pattern of like pleasing, again, conformity. And then when I take the focus off of give life to and generate, um, then I might have that thought of I'm not interesting enough or I'm not unique enough.
Mm. Oh, yes. I can just feel like how these beliefs just energetically kind of keep us small, and keep us from trying new things. I always love it when, one of our clients says, oh, I went to a new meetup, or I, tried a new salsa class, or I went to Sephora and got my makeup done for no reason, or I did, when they do these like juicy, fun things, it's intriguing and it's exciting. And it's so nice to see a woman who feels really comfortable creating the life that she wants. I feel like we need more of that. A few other beliefs that come up for me that keep me from being creative and living in my passions, whether it's in my relationships or outside of my relationships, is also this idea that it's not valued. Clearly it's valued by society. I mean, we have more art, more books, more music, more graffiti, beautiful murals, more, styles of dance and styles of yoga. Like, we're in a very creative time in our culture. But I think it's, for me, just inherited from this more puritanical point of view of like, okay, well, that's not going to pay the bills, or we can only do that once we've gotten our to-do list done, or it's not even that I'm being pressured from the outside world. Like, I work for myself leading this company, helping women find their partners, and I can structure my day the way that I want. Obviously, I'm so passionate about what I do and create a lot of great things and content for our clients, but I do have freedom that is something I don't take for granted. And yet I find myself, like you said, kind of wanting to please others or wanting to get everything done first. And one thing that's just edgy for me is to think about, you mentioned the word heart, like what is it that my heart really wants to offer, and what is it that I want to experience and that I want to give and that I want to create. And if I did that, wouldn't it be magical that maybe every other thing would kind of have more life and have more vitality and have less resistance? So maybe I'd ironically become more efficient by following my heart and my creativity more than my to-do list. So it's just this, like you said, it's this interesting paradox.
Yeah, and I think you bring up like a really important thing just about conditioning, how we've been conditioned. And more like what you're bringing in is maybe some new truths or just perspectives that we haven't always been, introduced to or invited into. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something that you said about in relationship getting into pleasing mode or just other things that come up. It reminds me of, this was many years ago. This was, 6 years ago or something. But I was working on a book, and I had been working on the book for a few months. And then I met a guy, and on like one of our first few dates, I had told him about it. It just naturally came up in the conversation. And he was like, that's so awesome. And then 6 months later, I realized I'd literally not worked on the book since I met him. It's like the emotional part of me got so merged with him that everything else automatically got like a lesser priority in my life, which is so messed up, right? Like, I think we all do it, but I look back and I think, wow, like that relationship could have been so different. Maybe we would or wouldn't have stayed together, but it could have been so different if I really honored myself and made myself an equal partner and made my projects an equal priority to like spending time with him. And I think we've all had that experience where someone's like, oh, let's hang out on Friday night. And maybe you've been dating for a few weeks or a few months and you have a scarcity mindset. Like, okay, well, if I don't say yes, I was planning on working on my book at that time, but if I don't say yes and this guy's asking me out, then what if he never asks me out again? Or what if I miss out on this opportunity? And one of our clients on one of the group calls a few weeks ago shared a celebration about how the guy she's seeing had asked her out to a movie that she actually didn't really want to go to. And she had said yes in the moment. And then the day before, she was like, you know what? I really checked in with myself and I realized that that's just not how I want to spend my time. I'd much rather do X, Y, Z. And she does pottery. She does all these cool things. I don't know if she actually did pottery that night, but we were all cheering her on and celebrating her for having the courage to say, actually, I'd rather spend time with myself than spend time with you that night, because this is what I actually need. Like, it's pretty awesome. And the more that she does that and the more that we as women do that, our partners respect us and value us and cherish us even more, and they want to make plans further in advance, or they want to make sure they pick activities that we're really interested in. So that's just another little tangent that I wanted to layer in.
Yeah, so important, and just tuning back into ourselves and listening to ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. And listening to ourselves might not be a skill, you know, if you're watching this live or on the replay, like maybe you don't really know what that means. Maybe you've never really learned to listen to yourself. Maybe when you have listened to yourself, it was judged or it was shamed, or someone said, you can't do that, you know, you got to do this. So I have a lot of empathy for people who might struggle to listen to themselves within creativity and also within relationship. I mean, how many times as women, we don't listen to our intuition. We kind of disregard the red flags or that little voice inside of us because of this hope, like, well, maybe it'll work out with this person, or maybe there's something wrong with me, and you know, this will all just sort itself out, instead of really paying attention and making healthy choices, which is such a big part of what we teach our queens, is how to find your intuition, how to trust it, how to have the courage to act on it and speak about it and get the support that you need to do that. And then how to speak your truth and how to follow your intuition in a way that not only honors you, but is enticing in a good way for the other person, versus feeling like you're rejecting them or kind of being avoidant. So yeah, I want us to go into that next question then, which is how do our beliefs about ourselves and our creativity, our passions, like how do those influence the type of partner that we attract? I have some thoughts, but I want to touch base with you about this too.
Yeah. So I'll maybe do both sides of the coin, right? So like when we conform, like you said, we tend to play small or have more limits on ourselves, or we're more confining or maybe rigid with ourselves. And then possibly then we also attract a partner that keeps us small and confined and has these expectations, but also that partner might mirror us in that they don't have things that they're creating or building in their career or their life, or they don't have the creative solutions to overcome challenges, or they don't contribute to the relationship any fun or adventure, anything like that, or interesting conversation. And then I think when we flip it, when we nurture our own creativity, like you were talking about, we nurture our authenticity, our freedom of expression, our passions, and that spark in life. And then that energy within us makes us more attractive. And then we attract that partner who's also authentic and passionate and building or creating something in their life and doing something that matters to them. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, it's easy to get into that more conformity mindset and then attract someone who's conforming, and then both partners feel kind of bored or frustrated. Or what also happens, just to piggyback on what you've been sharing, because I see that all the time, is that we start focusing on the wrong things. Instead of focusing on what we want to create with our partner, like how could our lives be better together, we start focusing on, well, he didn't text me right away, or, you know, he didn't, you know, do this. It's like we're finding fault with the other people because we're trying to get them to conform to our, you know, checklist of what we're looking for into a partner, instead of seeing relationships with the lens of creativity. Now, there are agreements, right? Like monogamy and things like that. So when I say creativity within your relationship, I don't mean those sort of things, although there are people out there who practice open relationships and all of that. What I mean in creativity and relationship is being able to bring those passions and those interests to the table, but then also be creative about how you spend your time together. You know, as women, sometimes we think, well, the man should just be planning all the dates, and he should plan really great dates. I had a woman, there was a woman who posted or who commented on one of our posts this week, which was, there was a post about what do you wish you better understood about men? And she said why some of them don't plan very fun dates or very creative dates. And I haven't replied to her yet, but I will. And I was gonna ask her, you know, well, how often do you share what your passions are and your interests are? Like, men are not mind readers. I know we wish that they were, but they don't know what we like. And that person may have dated someone who is a homebody, and so he doesn't really know what to do to plan fun dates. Or he might have hobbies like that don't feel like you would want to do those hobbies, and so he's not sure what to do other than like dinner and drinks. So we always have the power as women to share what we love, to share what we like, to share what would feel good. And then that gives a little roadmap, to the masculine. So it feels like, based on what you and I are saying, when we're in our creativity, when we're in our femininity, there's so much more flow and possibility between the partner and ourselves, and then between ourselves and like the rest of our life, that it really, it's really awesome. And then we won't get too deep into this, but patterns of attraction is a huge thing that I work with our queens on, because a lot of people have more of a damsel in distress mentality, like, oh, you can't help who you love, And I'm like, no, actually, that's not true. Like you can help who you love. And I would never recommend that someone date or be in relationship with someone that they're not interested in. But when we think that we can't change our patterns of attraction, we're giving our power away. We can change everything else in our life, our health, our career, our interests. We can move. Like, we have so much flexibility in our modern lives. Why wouldn't we be able to change our patterns of attraction? And that means learning to be attracted to the right person for you, instead of having chemistry with the people who are not the right person for you. So we can definitely be more creative in our patterns of attraction and use our creativity and our femininity through archetypes and other things that we teach our queens to change their patterns of attraction. In fact, one of our clients was just emailing me today about the archetype homework that she had done, and she had tried it out over the weekend and had some great epiphanies, and even met a guy in real life who asked her out, and they had a great date, and another guy that she met on another archetype that she was playing around with, and they had 2 different dates. So, it's you can have so much more creativity in your relationships and your patterns of attraction if you get past this belief that, like, you can't help who you fall in love with, or, I just have chemistry, I can't control it. Like, those are more unevolved, I would say, points of view, because your love life can actually be changed in the patterns of attraction, which changes everything. So let's talk a little bit more about how working on our femininity creates more creativity. We can share some examples about some clients, but maybe if you have any personal examples or client examples where, when someone really nurtures their heart and nurtures their femininity, like, what shows up in their life?
Well, I think what I was really present to is, I love the tools in your program, because I think it does nurture that foundation of our creativity, our feminine essence, and our authenticity, and just aligning with love, right? So then we're aligned with our hearts. And then, to me, it just naturally, we gestate those creative visions or callings or intuitions that we want to bring alive in our life. So I think we naturally nurture that. And then I think when we're also nurture our creativity and our femininity, we also sustain the things that we do create in our life. Like, we maintain them. And I think it can flow out into community, whether it's volunteering or something like that, or a creative project, or if your thing is to do like dinner parties, or create in just different ways, right? Like, yeah. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
yeah, it totally did. I really loved what you said about being able to sustain it, right? Like, there's so many things that feel very, I'll just say, masculine or agentic. Like, I have a goal, I meet the goal, and then I focus on the next thing. But then that goal, the accomplishment kind of goes away, or even if the accomplishment doesn't go away, we start feeling like it's unfulfilled. We start saying, okay, well, that was great, but now what's next? And it's like, we're always hungry. We're never really fulfilled, never really satisfied, versus when you said nurturing our creativity and our femininity, it made so much more sense that, then that would make it sustainable. Then that would be like, watering and fertilizing and giving sun to a tree that produces beautiful fruit every year. It doesn't just produce once and then it's over, So that is a much more feminine approach versus a more masculine approach of, like, produce it and it's done, and just, keep moving on to the next thing. But increasingly in our society and in our lives, I think we're finding that to be pretty hollow, which is why it's so important that we have a holistic and a feminine approach if we are more resonant with our feminine energy, or if we want to be, so that our creations can really be sustained. I mean, I'm always just blown out of the water by what our queens create. I mean, obviously they get into great relationships, and it's not that I'm, not surprised by that, but I also, that's why we do what we do. So it's exciting, but it's always, I guess the word is maybe refreshing and inspiring to see what people create. One of the women in our graduates group, she just signed a book deal with a really big publisher, like a massive publisher. And this is something that she said in our last alumni call, that she's been working on for 3 years, and that she'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh yeah, I need to find a publisher. And then she'll be like, wait a minute, I already have an awesome publisher. But it's been such a part of her psyche for so long that she almost like forgets that that she's made it happen. But she's been working so much on her feminine. She's been dating a great guy for 5 months now. She's in a totally different place in her own mindset and beliefs. And so that's been super exciting. We have other queens who have started their own nonprofits, who have written children's books, who have done short films, who become singers in like a more of a hobby way, but still, are singing for the first time. I mean, it's amazing what people create once they give themselves the permission. And then once they have the tools and the practices and the support, like you said, to really find that inner voice, because that's what generates the flow of creativity, is that connection to our heart. And I believe connection to spirit, or to a higher power that's wanting to flow through us and open us up to these new possibilities. There's so many other examples of people taking incredible trips. One of our queens just posted on the group today that she's taking a 7-day cruise by herself to celebrate her birthday, and, creating that amazing experience for herself. It's always just really, really inspiring.
I think there's several too that have made job transitions. Like they've come in with being really unhappy in their jobs, and they create amazing like job opportunities and pay raises. And,
Yes, it's so true. When we feel comfortable listening to our inner voice, being in our feminine, feeling empowered in our feminine, and feeling confident, the whole world takes notice. Like, yeah, there's many women who've gotten new jobs or new clients or started new businesses, or there's a few of our clients who've written books and then gone on to do speaking things and building their own, clientele roster. One of them is in health. One of them is, like kind of health and healing. But it's pretty magical. So that's why when we talk about, hey, find your feminine and be more in your power, I think the way we say it is like follow your pleasure and find your power, is that when we do follow our pleasure, when we follow our feminine, we always get more empowered, because we feel solid and confident within ourselves. And that's attractive to the masculine. That's attractive to everyone. Our bosses start noticing us. And this also feels really important, so that culturally we can get away from this, like, okay, I just got to put my head down and work harder, because that will only get you so far, right? Like that works when we're in our 20s or something, or, the part of our life where we've got to kind of prove ourselves or acquire some skills. But beyond that, it's about creativity and networking and energy. Dating is not a numbers game. It's an energy game. And so anyway, I could go on forever about this topic, but as we're wrapping up, is there anything else about creativity or femininity that you want to share?
No, I think the only other thing, like you said, like personally, like since I've been working with you and with the program, I've noticed myself do more new things, like try new things, like a new dance class or a new creative class or something like that. So just exploring and expanding different things and trying new possibilities too. And I think that with the queens as well.
Yeah. I know we haven't talked that much about the brain, but that's really good for the brain, like new neural pathways, new possibilities, new choices. One of our queens is moving across the country with her boyfriend now. She met him a few weeks into the program, and they're literally creating this new life together in a new city that really fits them. So yeah, there's so many ways that we can stay open and create and trust and be in that feminine flow. So if you're watching this live or on the replay and you want this, you want more creativity, you want more abundance, you want more femininity, and you want that in your dating life and in your relationships, then we would love to talk. You can set up a 20-minute discovery call with us, and we'll see if it makes sense to talk more about next steps. And that was just that is just by going to violetlange.com/talk. We'll take a look at what's going on in your love life and see if we can help you. And you can just pick out your time now. So go to violetlange.com/talk to get a boost for your feminine, your creativity, and how those weave together to help you achieve the vision that you want in your love life, and how that ripples out into the rest of your life as well. So Tamara, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart truths and just being a powerful presence on our Facebook Live tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you, everyone.